Hi guys, welcome to All About the Bash here on the Odd-Sided Dice YouTube channel. In this video we're going to be carrying on with our Inquisitor warband build that's inspired by the artwork from the Inquisitor's sketchbook by John Blanche. So when looking through some of the lore surrounding the Inquisitors, often they surround themselves by one of three other imperial factions. Firstly being the Sisters of Battle, and we've already brought that flavour into the warband with our Sister Repentia that we did last episode. Secondly, it's then the Admech, and we're going to leave the Admech towards the end of this series of videos because they're going to be basically our line troops within the warband. So using the Lieutenant model from the front of the Learn How to Build and Play magazine by Games Workshop, I'm going to tackle the third in this video, that being Death Watch. Now the body is one of these fast push fix type kits, and the reason why I've chosen to use this kit is that normally these throw up a little issue that hopefully I'm going to offer a solution to during this video. And this is an example of that issue, that because of the plugs and sockets that's within these push fit kits, sometimes you don't get complete closure at the joints. So at some point we're going to have a look at filling in these gaps that these kits have created. Now obviously there's one easy way around this problem with the joints, and that's actually to cut out and remove the plugs from within the body of the model. But this obviously wouldn't demonstrate or show some of the options you have for this gap filling, so I decided to leave mine in and deal with the gaps later. Now because this is a Death Watch model, there's a number of colours going on when we have to think about painting this guy. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave it in sub-assemblies and paint each part separately. But I want to build and at least tack these parts into position so I can have a look about being happy about the overall look of the model. So rummaging around in my bits box, I pulled out a couple of Space Marine arms, and also I've got some bits that are flying about from Spellcrow Industries, so I'm going to make use of these during this build. So the right hand is going to be holding some kind of data port, some kind of scanner, and remembering because this is a resin part and we're attaching it to plastic, we need to make use of super glue at this point, not normal plastic glue. And once we're happy, we're going to just use a little bit of glue tack, a little bit of poster putty, whatever you know it as, to mock the arm into position. Therefore we can be sure that we're happy with the overall look of the composition. Mocking the arm into position also lets us finish off the arm as well, where we have to attach this Death Watch upgrade sprue shoulder pauldron to the model. We would never have been able to adequately fit this to an arm that was separate from the model, so this little stage of mock-up allows us to finish main parts that we can then paint in our sub-assemblies. So now I'm going to move on to the other arm. This is going to be the weapon carrying arm. So here I've got a arm from one of the fast put together Reavers kits, and all I'm going to do is remove the hands with my side cutters so as to give it something a bit more mean, something a bit more menacing. Now I think I'm going to be deploying this guy in my warband as one of the upfront heavy hitters in close combat. And the way I've envisioned him holding this weapon means I had to get the arm mocked into place, just like I did with his other arm. So once cleanup has been completed and all my edges are nice and flat, again it's with the poster putty and the blue tack to stick the arm or mock it into position. And then we bring out his weapon. Nice one of the power mauls from the Chaos Space Marine kit that I've been itching to use on a model ever since I saw it on the sprue. Now to introduce it, all we need to do is remove the little plug that is used for the Space Marine arms and hands combination, and just fold it flat. Get a good contact point, and then with a bit of super glue we're going to attach it to the hand as it's mocked into position now. I'm really liking the pose that I'm going to have on this guy. The combination of that scanner in hand and his power maul just gives me the thought of, you know, he's one of these types of Marines who's constantly in need and following for his next victim. And I think that's one of the reasons why I like kit bashing so much. It is this ability that through these creations of these models you can add some narrative and a bit of backstory to your figures. So while the parts on the arms set together with the glue, I'm just going to mock up the head and any other little bits that I want to add to this model. Now the head is coming again from Spellcrow, and it helps us get a full idea of what our finished model might look like. It also lets me think about any other parts that I think I'm going to have to introduce to this model. So because it's one of these push to fit kits, it's easy enough to place the backpack into position to see how it looks. And it was at this point I decided that it needs a bit more embellishment. For someone that I'm trying to convey his more veteran status that he's been pulled into this Inquisitor warband, maybe he needs a bit more show, some trophies to adorn his armour with. So one of the easiest ways to do this is to turn to pretty much 90% of Kit Basher's probably favourite set from Games Workshop, that being the box of skulls. Because as we all know, no Games Workshop kit cannot be improved with the addition of extra skulls somewhere along the line. So the mildest bit of cleanup and a small dab of glue, we can add this trophy somewhere on our Deathwatch model. One of the other things you can do with the addition of these parts is maybe hide little blemishes in the model itself. Now one of the things with the backpack, there's always this sprue mark right at the top of the backpack. So I decided to put this plastic skull over the top of that mark and completely disguise and hide it. And touching on story again, just the addition of this one extra minor little part to the model allows you to create more story. Why did he get that skull? Is it the skull of someone he defeated? Someone he's trying to avenge, etc, etc. Literally, it is limitless to the story you can put in. Now one of the additions I do like to the Space Marines now in the new 40k kits is the addition of these little heraldic shield type plates. So again, I was able to get some from Spellcrow when I ordered other model parts along with the head for this model. And again, it's just one of those things to add to the overall aesthetic and the overall story of my model. Now with all bits on the model, and because they are only stuck into place with blue tack post putty, I can have a bit of a play around with the posing of the model and make sure I'm going to be happy with it before I glue other parts into place, because it's easier at this point to make any adjustments that I'd want to make. It was at this point that I noticed that I'd left something off. You can see there's a quite reasonably sized hole in the back of this model where the holster and various bits of belt kit from the Lieutenant kit slot into place. So again, lucky enough, because it's only mocked into place, I was going to take these parts apart anyway, so I could just remove them now, clean up the poster putty, and then stick this final part into place. Depending on what you use for this blue tack or poster putty, sometimes you leave residue on the surface. Now the easiest way to clean this up is just to get another smaller ball of the blue tack itself and then put it over the area where the remnants of the blue tack is, because it's just like a little sponge and it will soak up any residue or any little parts of that blue tack that are left on the surface. And with everything out of the way, you can see now that I've got far better access to glue that final part, that holster and those little pouches that are part of the Lieutenant kit. So now it's time for us to address these gaps in the kit. Now, this is a main problem, like I said, about these push fit kits, is that sometimes they don't marry up completely. Depending on who you talk to, we have one of three options at this point: milliput, green stuff, or the one I want to try out for this video that I've recently been told about, this plastic putty from Vallejo. Now this comes pre-mixed in this toothpaste style container, and literally all you have to do is squeeze some out onto your board. From here, application is now by paintbrush. What we want to do is pick some of this putty up on the end of our brush and actually stick it into the gaps that we're trying to fill. This is where I think this product gives an advantage over milliput and green stuff. Like I said, it becomes pre-mixed, so there's no confusion about getting your combinations between the two parts wrong. Secondly, because it is applied with a paintbrush, you can apply it to more detailed sections, and this will help you with our cleanup that we're going to do in a moment. Now obviously we want to get as much as possible actually into the joint itself, but again, using this small brush, I can basically poke the putty into the gap and then fill over the top of it afterwards. Now this putty itself is water soluble, so at this point, just before it hardens, we have the option to go over the joint that we've just filled with a little bit of water and remove the excess from the surface of the model. Now you only want a damp brush for this, because all you're trying to do is remove the excess and basically smoothen out the joint that you've got. If you put too much water in, Obviously all it's going to do is wash away all the putty that you've put into that joint. So obviously now it's just a case of travelling around the model, filling the gap with the putty, and then using the damp brush to remove the excess from the surface and make sure our joint is as clean as we can make it. Obviously you still have the option, if you want, to leave it a bit proud of the surface, wait for it to dry, and maybe then go over it with a file. But this putty is really easy to work with for these small gap fills. Now here's the model, all finished, all glued together in position, and so all it needs now is the application of paint. And this is the reason again why I said I decided to leave this in sub-assemblies, so I could paint each individual colour that goes into making up this Death Watch model. Well, thanks for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed. If you have and would like to support the Odd-Sided Dice YouTube and podcast, you can buy us a coffee with the links that are available below. Come and join us on our other social media on Facebook and on Instagram, again with links below. And we'll hopefully see you on the next video.